uh, webinar. Uh, so the webinar, the main agenda is uh, to understand the UDS ARXML as well as how to configure UDS using a ANCIT UDS author tool. So that's the agenda of this webinar. And thanks for joining once again. Uh, and before going to the tool or before going to this one, why we need a tool to order the diagnostic? That's the primary part. So we know that the UDS is a ISO 14229 standard, and it have both diagnostic UDS as well as there is a one more part called DEM, that is for the fault memory. And in our uh, uh, currently in market, there is a lot of tool we have to author the diagnostic. For an example, like Vector have a diagnostic tool, uh, CDD, Candela Design Studio, that they used for authoring the diagnostic services. Like we have different services we have. Yeah, okay. So uh, I will just give you the introduction first. Then probably will give you. I will give you the tool. Wait, just give me a minute. So, so the primary part is we have currently there are different tools we have in market. Like Vector have their own tool like Vector Candela Studio, and it's a popular tool, and it's very costly. It will be around some lakhs will be there, some 40, 50 lakhs will be there to configure, to use that tool to configure, and it's a yearly licensed one. And as we know that like we are doing in the AutoSOR and non-AutoSOR part for doing the diagnostic configuration, diagnostic authoring. And as per if you are doing a diagnostic part, we must need to follow the ISO 14229 protocol. And in that, there is a lot of things. So that's why generally we are going for a tool to author the diagnostic for different services. And ANCIT have a tool. So that is used for authoring different services. And as compared to the market, whatever the functionality that is providing, in the current market, like the CDD or whatever it is, the same functionality you will get it here. And it is used to author the ARXML, AutoSAR ARXML, basically. And it is easy to use. The first case is it is easy to use. I will show you that how to author the ANCIT tool, and it will generate the ARXML, and I will show you that how to validate and how to navigate or how to the ARXML file, how to interpret the ARXML file in a in-depth way in the AutoSUMMary. So yeah, I'll just go to the tool. I'll open the tool. Step right. And it's built on a Eclipse-based tool. And putting that, if it's opened. So this is a user interface, and it is easy to use. And yeah, hello. Yeah. So yeah. So the first part I'm going to explain that how to order the tool, and we have different services we have. So in this tool, like the first part, if you open the tool and it's a Eclipse based tool, and if you open the tool, first thing it will ask that what are all the service you need to configure. So you need to select that service. And it have some basic default sub-function will be there. For an example, I will take example diagnostic session control. And initially they have some default sub-function. And if you, whatever the sub-function you need that you need to select. And if you need configure a little more in depth, in the bottom, you can see there is another tab for configuring the different services. The first tab is for an overview, and you need to select the service what you want to configure in your project. And I selected the service, the first service, diagnostic session control. And I'm going to the diagnostic session control tab. Here you can see diagnostic session control default, the subfunction, programming subfunction, extended subfunction, and I'm going to configure a new subfunction so that you can configure here in the diagnostic sessions. You can add a new subfunction here. Developing, they'll make it the subfunction ID 04, and each subfunction, okay, each subfunction, each subfunction you need to keep it in decimal value. Developing, going to keep it subfunction. And each subfunction you have to configure, as we know that do you need to jump to the bootloader or not? So there is a option generally if you configure the diagnostic sessions, different sessions, there is a options we need to select. For that session, do we need to jump to the bootloader or not? Generally, we will keep that in programming session. So in the programming session, we will keep we need to jump to the system bootloader or OEM bootloader. That option we have. And in each session, we have the different timing parameters we can able to configure the P2 and P2 star timing parameter. So that also we can able to configure in the extended session. And this is the idea about to configure the extended session. The different sessions in the diagnostic session control. And this is the primary configuration we need to do. Then after this, we need to convert this configuration into ARXML. So if you need to only configure a session control, I will take one more service. Then I will do the generation part. So I'm taking here like in the tool how it will be. The first thing you need to select that what is the service you need and what are all the subfunction you need. Then in that second, you need to configure that if you need an extra subfunction or something that you need to configure. And each subfunction maybe depends on the different subfunction. It has some configuration dependencies. Like in the session control, we have a configuration dependency. Like each session, we need to keep the P2 and P2 star timing. So that we need to keep. And for another example, like if you are going for a tester present, it have only one subfunction, tester present, zero subfunction. So here you can see there is a subfunction 0 here, and there is no other subfunction in the tester present. And the tool will know that what service have what and all the subfunction. In the sense, like there are some service only have one subfunction, like tester present. This tool is designed as per ISO 14229 standard. And if you check that document, it will say that like in the uh, tester person, there is only one subfunction that is 00 subfunction. Here we are not giving an option to configure that because of it only have the one subfunction. So this is the way we need to configure a service in the ANCIT tool, and it will be like in a user friendly, and it will only show the mandatory options for the individual services. So it will be a little helpful to understand the services and the dependencies. Then what we need to do, we need to save this and we need to export the configuration what we did. We need to keep it export. and I'm keeping a folder here, new folder. I'll keep it UDS. I'm just keeping a folder like UDS ARX and select. And the background, it will convert the configuration what we did here. It will convert the configuration into the ARXML file, into the corresponding folder what we selected. And after that, it will give that export successfully. Then we need to go to that folder. Diagnostic ARXML. Here you can see it will generate a ARXML. I will open it and show you. So it will generate a ARXML. It will generate. So we only configure this is the service what we need, and this is the sub function. And if you need an extra sub function, that also you can add it. So that it will configure here. For an example, here you can see session. So we know that like this ARXML, like generally we will use it in AutoSAR. And in the AutoSAR, there is a structure we need to follow if you are configuring uh, a UDS. And the UDS, they in the AutoSAR we call it as DCM, Diagnostic Communication Manager, and it have different layers in the DCM. We call it in the DCM we have diagnostic 3 layers actually: DSL, DST, and DSP. And the DST you can see here. This is the service that I configured: session control, diagnostic session control, and service 62, and the subfunction default with the subfunction extended and programming, and in the session control default extended programming. Just taking that one. See, I'm just going to that service. Just give me a minute. Yeah, here will be in the diagnostic, the diagnostic boot programming session. I just need to generate once again. This is what we need, and this is the subfunction. This is the service I want to select, and this is not the subfunction we have. Need to save it. Export ARXML, and I want to export that. Okay, export successfully. Right. Show that. In the project, they added the security level, so that's why it is coming. Just need to generate again. The two things are open, so that's why it's 2 times it's open, so that's why it's showing like this. I just need to open again. So So I need to select the service, what I want, and I need to configure. So this is all the subfunction I have, and I need to select whatever the subfunction I need. And default, it will be there is some three subfunction will be there that I'm selected, and I'm selecting the tester present as well. And yeah, so these things I want to do. Then I want to export that. Just create a folder, another folder like yeah. Here you can see that yeah, diagnostic, session control, default, extended, programming, and it have, as per the AutoSAR, there are three layers, DSD, and if you come down you will get the other layers. In the DSP there are some configuration will be here for default, extended, and all things. And there is one more layer you will get, it will generate, that is the DSP. TSP, and there is one more layer you will get, that is the TSN. So there are three layers in the AutoSAR that will generate as per the AutoSAR ARXML standard. And I will show you the other services, how to add it and how to generate the ARXML. So for an example, like in the security control. So I have added two securities. There is some two securities existed, and I will keep the value like the security key. I'm keeping the level 1, and the time. I need to keep the security delay time. Like if there are some configuration we have, if you are configuring a security level, for example, in the security level, if you turn on the ECU, what will be the minimum delay time you need to keep it? So for, in your phone, like after you turning on, we must need to do the pattern, then only it will turn on. The same way, like there is a configuration we have it in the UDS. After turning on the ECU, the first some time we cannot able to request the security control. So that timing parameter we have here, that is we call it as security delay time. I'll just keep it 10. And in the security delay time, in the sense, if you are attempting the this much of failed time, if you are attempting, then you cannot able to request. Like you are attempting, for an example, if you are attempting 5 times, a failed key value. And so in our phone, like this, we know that like after we attempting 5 times, then it will be lock 30 seconds, right? So that delay time you can keep it here. And in the what is the seed size and what is the key size, I'll just keep it 2 bytes seed size and 2 byte key size. So that and all we can keep it in the security control. I'll just configure all the services, then I will generate the ARXML, then I'll show you. That will be better. So this is the way we will configure the security control. Then the ECU reset. So we will give some general ECU reset configuration that is as per the UDS ISO 14229. And if you need, you can configure more UDS ECU reset as well. Like you can add it and you can add the subfunction and the identifier. There are some options the UDS document mentioned about to add a new user-defined subfunction as well at this range that we need to take as per the UDS document, and that value we can give it here. And we have the communication control. So we have to enable the RX and disable the TX. We have enable the RX and disable the TX. So, and we have other subfunction as well. Disable the RX and enable the TX. And disable the RX and disable the TX. So there are some other subfunction in the service 28 communication control. And we have another service like read data by identifier. So how to configure this read data by identifier? First, we need to configure the DID. So we need to add the DID is what we want. So I will add one DID. I'll name win number. And I will add the DID number F190. So I added a win number F190. And I need to add that this DID into my read data by identifier. So you can, there is an option here to add read data by identifier, and here you can enable it and you can add it here. So this is the way you can add the read data by identifier. And if you add this one in the same DID into the write data by identifier, you need to go to the write data by identifier configuration, and here you need to add it, and here you need to click OK. So this is the way you can configure a read data by identifier and write data by identifier. So what will be the advantage of using ANCIT tool as compared to the others is, uh, in others, if you are going to configure a DID manually in EBIT resource or any tool, it will take some time, and we don't know that the like what and all the parameters we need to configure for a DID. Correct. So maybe in some tool, like in the vector tool, it need to configure around 4 parameters. But in EBIT resource, it need to configure 3 different containers. And the service will be in different layer in the DSD. So the primary idea to use this ANCIT tool is it will be a user-friendly tool to configure a different services in UDS, even if you don't know the complete idea about the how to do the configuration in the DCM level, in the diagnostic level. So if we have the idea of how to configure and all things, but in different tool, different uh, format will be there. For example, the UI will be different for different tool. So we may be confused that which options we need to select for to configure which services. So maybe we have the idea to configure in vector, but we will be getting some confusion if you are doing in the EB. So there is some confusion will be happened like if you are handling different tool in AutoSAR. But here it will be like we can do within a simple step as a user-friendly interface and a tool. And if you compare with the tool like ODX, sorry, not ODX, CDD, that vector tool, Candela Design Studio, there it will be more options you will get to configure a ODX CDD or the corresponding ARXML file. It have a more options you will get, and there are something is mandatory options, and that you need to configure, and there are something is optional. So here what we are providing, there are some mandatory configuration that why we need to do again and again, that we will keep it, the tool will generate that option. And there are something that the user need to configure, like what is the DID number and what is the name of the DID. That's all the user configuration thing. So the user can able to configure that. And there are some mandatory configuration that the tool will handle that. And at the end, it will generate a ARXML file corresponding to the CDD, the Candela Design Studio, how it is generating a ARXML, how it is generating a CDD. It will generate a ARXML file with corresponding to that. And it is easy to use with any tool that we are using for importing the CDD ARXML to build your diagnostic stack. So our tool is like basically it's a user-friendly tool, and it will be taking a minimal configuration to configure a diagnostic. So that I mentioned, like for a routine control, for example, like if you need a ECU, erase ECU, and if you need to configure that this one sub function, I'll just keep it. You need to add the service first. So the sub function, I'll keep it as FF00. Then, sorry, sub function name, I'll keep it as erase ECU memory, and my identifier, routine identifier is FF00. And in each subfunction, what we need to do, we need to configure what is the what and all the subfunctions we need for this routine control. So you can add it here, just add it. If you need only start, you can add the start subfunction. If you need start and stop, that also you can add it. And you need to add the security level, sorry, so the session level, what you want. So it will be work on only in extended. And you can add the security level reference. That is work on level 1. So that and all you can add it here. And there is a DEM related services like fault memory related services we have. And here you can see we need to configure the different subfunctions in the diagnostic to read the DTC with the status mask, or we need to read the DTC by extended data. We need to read the DTC snapshot data. So there are different subfunctions we have. That and all you can configure here. And in the another tab for DTC info, clear DTC info. So, and the control DTC info. So in the control DTC info, what basically here you need to configure. Okay. Yeah, I will address that point. I'll address that point. Yes. So here you can see that the control DTC settings. Here you have the subfunction 01 and 02. And the clear DTC, actually we don't have any subfunction. So that's why we kept it this empty. We don't need to configure anything here. In the control DTC setting, we have two subfunctions. 01 is for on and 02 is for off. Like this, we have to configure, we can configure different services and different subfunction, and with a minimal configuration. Minimal configuration in the sense, if you are going to configure services, it have in the background, it have a lot of dependency. And that is a mandatory part. Why we need to do again and again. So for configuring a DID, if you are configuring in the vector or EBIT resource or any ARXML, you need to configure at least 4 containers to configure a single DID with the 4 different parts. That and all we are dealing here with we are dealing here with only the mandatory parameter you need to configure. So for this DID, I need to configure the DID first for what win number, and that I am added in my write data by identifier service. And what is the session it will support? It will work on programming session or default session. And what is the security it will support? It will work on level 1. If you add more level, that it will show here. So this will be like a user-friendly tool to configure the mandatory user configuration part. It will show, and there are some dependency will be there that we don't need to worry about that. The tool will handle that in the background to generate that ARXML. And let's put that. Let's put the diagnostic ARXML. And I will show you that like how it is doing that. I will open this ARXML here. Yes. So here I will show you that the services, so the TSD default standard programming. Yeah, the security level, the other services what we added is security control, and the service 39, not 39, it's actually 27, and it is converted into hexadecimal, that is 39. Sorry, decimal, that is converted to 39. And we have a routine control service. So basically how to read the ARXM, that is the second agenda of our thing. So this is a ARXML similar to the ARXML that we are getting from the CDD. Like we have a different tool in our market. So for one of the example, I'm taking the CDD, Candela Design Studio. That it is configuring. We are configuring a CDD file, and we are converting the CDD file into ARXML to use it in our different tools to configure the diagnostic services. Our tool will generate the same ARXML with the configuration what you did in that tool. And for an example, like here you can see, yeah, we have the different services for session control we created, and we created the uh, routine control. So with the service 0x31, here it is the hexadecimal value. 0x31, here it will be the decimal value. and it have the sub function available. Yes, the sub function is available. And we created another service, security control, and it have the sub function is available. Yes, and the service is 39. And with the two sub function that we created, security level 1 key and security level 1 seed, this is all the two sub function that we created in the tool for security control level 1 seed and level 1 compare key level 1 and request seed level 1. So that all the two things it is added. And there is a tester present service and with the sub function 0. And then it is come to the DSL layer. The DSL layer, what we have, after we import this configuration, it will show that we are done this on CAN and all things. That it will be a user specific thing. Are we going to do this diagnostic on CAN or Ethernet and all things? That whenever you imported the this ARXML into the project what you are using, there we have a option to change it. So that time you can change it. Currently, we are generating with the CAN. There we can have an option to change it, and as per the requirement need, we can able to add it these options also into the tool. Currently, we are mainly focusing on configuring the services and generating the corresponding ARXML with that services and the subfunction. And the connection and all things like the physical type and all things. This currently uh, we are doing the existing part for the CAN, and this you can edit that after you import it into your tool. And as the requirement need, like if you want this option also in our ANCIT tool, we can able to port it that as well. Then we have the DSP. We have the different sessions like what we configured, and we have the what is the robot. We need to configure. Yeah. So that options you will get it here. So that's basically the idea what I want to convey. And one or two questions I got in the comment. Let me address that part. ARXML, are we going to use the configurator tool? Sometimes the configurator generate the yes. So what we can do is like the same ARXML after you configure all these things, the same ARXML you can take it and you can import it into your not only DaVinci, like your any tool that is used for importing a diagnostic ARXML, that they are used to import a diagnostic ARXML to do the configuration. Like one of the thing is DaVinci, and you can use for EB resource, any tool that you are using to do the configuration, you can import it directly. And whatever the configuration in the ARXML that you did in the tool, that will reflect that. I didn't get the question how to call the API using the tool. Can Prasad, can you just clarify the question, please? Hello, uh, Shambhu Prasad, can you clarify the question? I didn't get that API. Call the API using the tool. That I didn't get it. Yeah, please. Yeah. So this is basically the idea. This is the tool what we have, and here we have to configure the services and the subfunction for the different services. And if you export that into a folder, it will generate a ARXML. That ARXML contains the information what you configured there. So, and it will only visible if you select it here. That's the main part. So, in the first overview, if you selected the services what you want, then only it will show. So that's why we are taking a the first thing, like we are taking this overview and all these things. Like if you selected this one in the overview, whatever you need, then you need to configure this one. So that will come into the ARXML. So that's the primary part. Just keep it distance. So, Zero sequencing. And erasement. So it will show it in the ARXML, whatever that you configured. So that running is taking the yeah here. It will have the other additional configuration also. Like for an example, there are some dem general configuration will be here. For an example, like if you're configuring the DCM, but there is some DCM general configuration will be here. So that also will be supported, like with the auto version and what is the error detect. So that is the default configuration we are added. So we just need to be get it intact with the all the part. So that will be added here. And this is what I want to show, and this is the ARXML it will generate as per the tool, and it will you can able to use it this ARXML into your tool that you are using to configure the diagnostic with the ARXML. Yeah. Okay. In Aptos, in the sense, you are talking about the embedded Aptos, right? If I'm not wrong. Yeah. In the Aptos, generally, are you talking about the embedded part or the AutoSAR part? Embedded. So embedded generally we will not have a tool to import the what we can say uh, import the ARXML and all things. There is no storyboard of ARXML will come under the if you are configuring a embedded project. For that, what we are providing with the ARXML, we are providing one more thing. Whatever the configuration we have, we are providing the config files. It will be inside a structure. For an example, like I'll show you. Uh, uh, Read data by identifier. So what is the DID, what we configure, what and all the sub function. Okay, this is the read DTC. Let's take it, read data by identifier. What is the what is the DID that you configure? It will work on what session and what security level. All these things it will configured in the .c files that also we are providing for embedded. So if you generate this code, if you configure this one and if you generate this code, there you don't need any ARXML to do that. We are providing the config files that is generated by the tool as per the configuration that you did there. So for an example, like in the diagnostic session control, we configure the different sessions. So with this the session default programming extended, and in the ECU reset, we configure there is one subfunction ECU reset. There is one subfunction, like there are 5 subfunction are already available. So the 5 subfunction support. So as I want to say that, like for the embedded, we will not use the ARXML. We are providing the config files for you. Okay, there are two ways. If you are using a AutoSAR project, you can import this ARXML into the tool that you are using to configure your AutoSAR project. Like for an example, uh, vector developer or vector configurator or EB resource or any other tool. There you can import the ARXML and the tool will generate the files. And if you are going to configure a embedded software, the same thing, like after you export the data, after you export, it will generate both ARXML and the config files. And if you are doing a embedded, you can use the config files to do your project. And if you are using a AutoSAR project, you can use the ARXML to import the configuration what you did here into your tool. That are the two varieties of options we are providing for both AutoSAR and non-AutoSAR projects. Okay, how to implement the DTC information and how to configure this with the application is the application. Okay, that's it depends. Like if you are going to configuring in the DTC information in the what we can say uh, in the ARXML, and you are using a tool to do the configuration. That DTC information, it have different services here we have. Here you can add different sub functions. For there are three services that is related to the DTC. One service is read DTC information, second clear DTC information, third control DTC information. This all belongs to the DCM module. So here you can configure that services, and there is a one more module, the dem, that we are not yet added into this tool. So we are planning to add in this tool. So currently, you need to configure separately with the DEM, and we are also planning the DEM configuration also to this tool. So there, what we can do, we can configure the DEM configuration. This is the DTC, like how I created a DID with the name. The same way, the DTC, and there are some parameter will be there, like for configuring a DTC. What is the operation cycle, what and all the freeze frame data, what is the extended data, that and all some parameters will be there for a DTC. Currently, the DTC configuration we are not added in this. We are planning to add in this tool. So this tool currently it's based on the services that is supported for UDS services as per ISO 14229. And to connecting to the application component to the DTC, if you are using a application or a AutoSAR project, after import this ARXML, and after we are planning to add the demo as well. So after import this one, and you need to run the in the EB2 source, there is some multitask update and all things. And in the vector, if you save this configuration, it will generate a API or interface, and that interface you need to connect it to your using the DaVinci developer that you need to connect. So that connection we are not providing here, but for embedded, if you generate the code, we are giving the placeholders for example, I'll just show you how to connect to the application is we are giving the placeholders for mm, read data by identifier. So if you need to read the data, this is the function you need to call. So in a 1.c file, if you call this function, you can able to get the data from here. For the embedded, this is the function. But for AutoSAR, it depends on which tool we are using. So we are that is not depend on the UDS perspective. UDS will not care about that which software it is going to connect and all things. So that we need to do that to connecting to the application. Bootloader, no. Currently in this software, we are not added the bootloader. So if required, we can add it and we can do the bootloader configuration also. Ah. For calling the DID number that I show, not only for the DID, for example, I will take another .c file like easy reset. It will give you the corresponding function name. This is read data by identifier. We will give you the corresponding function for calling the uh, data from application. So that we will give it to call the data from application. That this you can, instead of here, you can call it in your whatever the .c file you want. You can call it there and you can take the data. Routine DAD that I mentioned, right? Routine DAD, you can configure here. Uh, routine control. Here you can add it, the routine control, the subfunction name like engine status, and the routine identifier 1 2 3 4. That routine identifier you can add it, and in this routine identifier you can add the subfunction what you need, and the security level and the session level. If you need both all the subfunction, you can add it. That also. Stop. Start requests. You can add all the subfunction as well. Yes, we have the UDS bootloader training. I think Bhishma, can you answer that question? Like,
Yes, we do have the UDS bootloader training. So for I'm just pinging the email ID. Please drop your requirements to this email ID. We will share you all the table of contents, commercials in detail.
so as I want to discuss that, like we have the tool and we have a user-friendly tool to configure the UDS services with all the subfunctions what you want, and we can able to export that, and it's a minimal configuration only we need to do for both ARXML or embedded for non-AutoSAR and AutoSAR, and we need to export that configuration, and it will generate a ARXML as well as the embedded code as well. And in the ARXML, it will be as per AutoSAR, and you can directly import that ARXML into any tool that you are using for uh, your project, like the any tool that you are using to configure your project. So you can directly import that. For generation, we are writing the so in the sense like what is the tool you are using for generating the ARXML? Is that you are saying? I mean, the tool is having the okay. Um, no, I didn't get it. Narrating files. Which tool we are using for
Generating.
generating files? We are writing the script in the background to generate the files. Yes. Okay, that we are writing the script and we are giving the placeholders and the structural format uh, of the configuration what we did in the tool. Abhishek, can you answer the last question? Like,
Which session Swastik is looking for? If this is a UDS, this session we will put it in YouTube itself. Just check on our YouTube channel, ANCIT technical videos. We will be having all our videos here. Okay, fine, team. If there is no more questions, then we will stop here. Thanks. One more question. What code you used, Keppel or Python or C?
this is whatever the generated code, that is a C code. The generated code, if you are asking, that is a proper C code that we are using for embedded. Yeah. By using the tool, we have multiple functions. I didn't get the last point. All the functions in yes, what we are providing is like after we generate the code, if you're talking about the C code perspective, after we generate the code, it will give you the placeholder to write the function. For an example, UDS will not a dependent of any board. So if you need to do a ECU reset, if you configure that ECU reset and if you generated the code, even in the ARXML or in the code level, if you generate the code, it will give you the placeholder in the code that you can use it in the application, and you can write the corresponding code for your microcontroller. And for ARXML, the ECU reset that you need to import, the entire ARXML, you need to import it into your tool to configure that. So after you import the tool, and if you after you import the tool, then depend on the tool, there is some options you need to run there. And after you run that, it will give you a port interface. I'm talking about in the AutoSAR. So it will give you a port interface. That port interface you need to connect it to the application, the which tool you are using, either DaVinci Developer or System Desk or RTOP, that you need to use to connect to the application. So here in the ARXML wise, what we are providing is the same as that of what you are getting using a .candela studio file. And in the C code wise, what we are providing, if you are going to configure a UDS tag, and you need to configure these services with the subfunction and all things, right? That structural format we are giving in the C code. I mean, how to generate this file is, for an example, I configured all these things, right? I'll just save it. I'm exporting, and I'm going to do a new folder 1 to ABC, and I'm exporting the data. It will do two things. It will take the ARXML what I'm done here into that into this. It will give you the ARXML what I am configured there. That it will show here. This is the ARXML that we discussed, and it will give you the files whatever you configure. Read data by identifier, security control, read DTC, write data by identifier, all the config file also it will show. So there is no, the background the tool is generating that. We are exporting to a folder. It will take the information that we configured in the tool, and it will generate a ARXML for AutoSAR and C code for embedded.
Thank you, team. We will stop here. And if you have further queries, please drop us an email to info@ancitconsulting.com. We will address this. Bye.
Okay.
Thanks, Joga.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.